My sisters-in-law have spent 6 years saying it was the contractor. The accusation is that he took the cars on the night of the death. The accusation almost matches the facts. The man with the key was me. My father-in-law Henry passed on a Saturday morning in the spring of 2019. He was 81, massive stroke. He had been healthy 2 weeks earlier. He was at the kitchen table reading the paper, and then he was on the kitchen floor, and by the time the ambulance got there, he was gone. Henry lived in a town outside Boston with my mother-in-law. They had a separate 2-bay garage on a small piece of land behind their house. This garage held Henry's vintage car collection, 5 cars he had been restoring over 20 years. The 2 highest value ones were a 1968 Shelby GT 500 and a 1957 Porsche 356 Speedster, both fully restored, both with paperwork. I had been close to Henry. He had taught me how to use a torque wrench. He had taken me to 2 Barrett-Jackson auctions. He had given me a copy of the keys to the garage 3 years before he died because he had wanted me to be able to check on the cars when he was away. The key remained on my key ring. The morning Henry died, I drove out to the house to be with my wife and her mother and the police. We were there until about 3 in the afternoon. Then the family started gathering at my mother-in-law's. My wife's 2 sisters were both flying in. The first one would arrive Sunday. The second one would arrive Monday. At 6:30 on the Saturday evening, I told my wife I needed to run home for a couple of hours to grab a suit. She nodded. I drove. I did not go home. I drove to the garage. I want to be specific about what I did because I have been alone with this for a long time, and saying it out loud, even into a microphone, is part of why I am doing this. I used the key. I opened the garage. I drove the Shelby out first. I parked it in a friend's storage facility in Worcester that I had used for an old motorcycle of my own. The drive was 80 minutes. I came back. I drove the Porsche out next. I parked it in the same storage facility. I closed the garage. I drove home. I picked up the suit. I went back to my mother-in-law's at 11 that night. Nobody noticed the cars until Tuesday. Henry's collection was not insured for theft. Nobody had a recent inventory. The 2 cars were the most distinctive. Anyone who knew the collection would notice they were gone, but only 6 people in the world really knew the collection, and most of them were busy with funeral arrangements. The missing cars were noticed by my mother-in-law's brother on Tuesday afternoon. He was looking through the garage and he counted 3. He asked my mother-in-law. She did not know. The family police report was filed Wednesday. 2 cars. Total estimated value about $240,000 at the time. The investigation was, and I want to be honest about this, half-hearted. Henry had been ill once before, and there had been a contractor in the house for 2 weeks doing repairs. The contractor had had a temporary key to the garage that had never been fully accounted for. The contractor had moved out of state. The detective wrote it up that way and closed the case in 8 months. I sold the Shelby in October of 2019 to a private collector in Florida for $110. I sold the Porsche in March of 2020 to a different private collector for $70. I took both as wire transfers to an LLC I had set up the previous fall. I waited 2 years before I used any of the money. Then I bought a beach property in my LLC's name, which my wife thinks I inherited from an uncle. She has not asked too many questions about the uncle. She is not curious that way. My mother-in-law passed in 2022. The case is closed. My wife's sisters still bring up the contractor at every Thanksgiving. They name him by name. They speculate about him. I sit at the table and I eat my pie and I let the conversation happen. What would you have done? Tell me in the comments.